Welcome to another episode of Dad's Rules with Kevin Belzer. Today is episode number 145. Wow. I was hearing recently, or I heard recently, that if you get to 21 episodes total, you're in the top 1% of all podcasts out there as far as volume is concerned. Isn't that crazy stat that you only need 21 total podcasts to pop in the 1% percentile? Blows my mind. I mean, I'd heard before that it was around 7, so it must have just, bumped up a little bit over the years, got its way up to 21. Well, we are at 145. I've had a lot of cool shout outs recently about the podcast. I really appreciate it when you guys stop me, text me, DM me about how you feel about the podcast. I had somebody reach out and phone me the other day and just thank me for the podcast. They say that they really enjoy it. That means an absolute lot to me that you guys would feel the need to reach out and tell me your thoughts on it. So I definitely greatly appreciate that. Happened a couple times in the last few weeks. And then I had a unique, weird one, however you want to word it, where I had an email from someone that said, my podcast is ranked 16th in the Cayman Islands for self-development. That is such an odd factoid that, of course, I can't forget it because I'm like, okay, I don't know where it ranks anywhere because I don't even know how to look up the stats. But anyway, somebody reached out and was like, did you know that your podcast ranks number 16 in self-development in the Cayman Islands? I mean, I do feel that we do offer a lot in the self-development world. We're all over the map as far as what the podcast does as far as episodes are concerned. We have episodes that range from interviews to just my wife and I just having fun on the podcast to ones like we're going to do today, which is talking about some self-discovery thing that I went through recently. But before I get into that, I do want to bring up to you guys that if you would like to, rather than listen to us on Apple or Spotify or whatever source you're listening to the podcast on, that you can also view us on YouTube. Just go to Kevin Belzer channel on YouTube and you can watch there. We've seen a lot of people start jumping on that. It's not getting a ton of views as far as that's concerned, but there's a lot of additional videos on there that also dives into my real estate world. We are closing in on 800 total videos on the YouTube channel alone. A friend of mine, John Story, told me a few years ago that you need to get your YouTube channel up to at least 400 videos. I apparently took it very seriously and went from at the time to a handful of videos to we are now at close to 800. They're everything from shorts to the podcast to real estate stuff to real estate tips. So it's a little bit all over the place, but it's where I put everything in just one channel because you know what? I'm not going to manage multiple channels. Excuse me. I had to take a drink of my water, who is also not a sponsor. So today's podcast, I wanted to get into a program that I just went through, not a challenge, but a program. I just finished 75 Hard for the second time this year. Now, for a recap of what 75 Hard is it's 2 workouts that have to be at least 45 minutes long. One of them has to be outdoors. It's a gallon of water a day. That's kind of tough, but you end up living in the bathroom a lot. A little tip on that one, front load your water so that you're not peeing all through the night. You have to stick to a diet, no cheat meals, no alcohol. And read for 10 pages at least from a self-development book every day, at least 10 pages. Just completed that for the second time this year. What I did is I started on January 1st because Andy Frisella was kicking it off with everybody. Because Andy Frisella, if you don't know, was the creator of 75 Hard over 6 years ago. So it's not a passing fad. It's been around for quite a while. I've actually gone through it 3 times now. I've gone through phase 1 once. But anyway, he created it over 6 years ago. And I like to periodically do it because it does recenter me. So on this time, this is the second time that I went through it. I went through it from January 1st for 75 days. I took a weekend off because we were doing a lot of road traveling, not flying traveling. And I was like, you know what? I'm done with 75 hard. Let's take the next couple days off. And then when I get back from our trip, I'll start up again, which is what I did. And then I just got done with it again. And my wife informed me that I was not allowed to start it or any other program again until we had our anniversary dinner, which is tonight. It's our 32nd anniversary. Thank you. I know that some of you actually said to the podcast, oh, happy anniversary. I appreciate that. So it's our 32nd wedding anniversary, and she wanted to make sure that we could have the lava cake or the creme brulee or the bread or whatever at our anniversary date this year, because I believe I was on a program last year and didn't get any of that. Yeah, so we'll be getting into what's going to happen next once we're through the anniversary tonight. But for right now, we've had 2.5 weeks off from the program. But I want to go over the results that I had on it. Now, the program is not designed to be a weight loss program, but if you are actually sticking to this and doing the 2 workouts a day and no cheat meals, no alcohol, any of that stuff, it will work out that way to where you will lose weight or trim up, whatever case maybe. If you don't have any more weight to lose, you're gonna definitely trim up because you're not bloated from the sugars, the breads, or whatever you happen to be giving up. So what I did both times this year on 75 hard for my diet is I gave up bread, cheese, and desserts, processed sugars, stuff like that. So didn't get any of that. And you would think it would be really hard, but honestly, at this point, when I stopped this time, and it was a couple days later, because I never go right into eating anything right afterwards. I give it a few days. But a couple days later, I had a donut from church, which they get them from a donut shop here in town, and they're usually phenomenal. Well, this time when I had the donut, I mean, I was like maybe a third of the way through, and I'm like, crap, this is like, you could just taste the over amount of sugar that is in this donut in any sweets. So I can honestly say that I don't think I want to go back to how I was eating before. I have had total days this year of bread 4 times. That's it. 4 times with bread. Cheese, probably about the same. And then, like I said, with the desserts, don't really miss them. So we'll have it tonight because Fleming's Steakhouse has phenomenal creme brulee, which that's it's always felt like it was mild anyway. We'll see. Maybe I should give you guys an update on how that goes down. But anyway, that was the diet I did. I've heard all kinds of crazy diets. I know a buddy of mine that does it, that his diet was steak, apples, and almonds. That's what he ate for 75 days. I'm not like that. What I did instead is I gave up the things that I've noticed in the past were reasons that I would gain weight. So the second time through, I did actually lose weight. I really don't have much less to go. I mean, look at me at this point if you're watching on YouTube. I am back down to my military weight. I'm in the 160s again. So there's not really much more I could possibly lose at this point. But anyway, I lost 9 total pounds to get back into that. Lost the bloatedness and all that fun stuff. So that was my results as far as that. I don't drink, so the drinking was never an issue. As far as books, I do want to go over the books I read. I did get through quite a few because I don't read just 10 pages from a self-development book a day. I read a lot more than that. So I want to go over the books I got through, and then there was one that I had just started at the very end of this. So anyway, what I wanted to do this time is not just show you the books and all that. I wanted to go over the lessons and stuff that I got out of them. So first off, I did finish Firelighters 365. Now, Firelighters is the way the book's designed is you're supposed to read like one one thing out of it per day because it's 365 and that's it. But, I had wanted to be reading this. Andy Frisella had been talking about it. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to read the whole thing. Now, Firelighters 365 is by Lou Caralla. I may or may not be yeah. See how good I am at speaking. I may not be saying that correctly, but this is daily motivational messages, perfect for coaches, leaders, stuff like that. So what they do in this book is they have, it's literally going to be one page, and at the bottom it'll have like calls to action at the bottom. So I'll just pick something random out of here. And this was a thought to action at the bottom of day 196. How are you growing as a person to stand tall in any adversity? So what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to take whatever the thought is and meditate on it and figure out, well, what is the issue you're dealing with that? What can you do to improve on that? So how are you growing as a person to stand tall in any adversity? Jeez. Speak much? All right, so that was that one. Another one I read, this was actually in a book club reading, but this one's called 1 Million Followers, and this is by Brendan Kane. So what this has to do is this has to do with growing your social media presence. So for this one, now I highlight in books. So what I'll do is I'll just pick out a highlighted spot. And, okay, so here's just a random thing that I highlighted in here because it's talking about, how to grow to 1 million followers and whatnot. So this, at the bottom, page 172, it goes, don't message 5 people and get discouraged if none of them respond. Message 100 more people and then another 100 people after that until you find those who will advocate for you. Even if only 2 or 3 people want to work with you, it's something. It's quality, not quantity, that helps you grow. Focus on 1 or 2 valuable connections or partnerships. I have made tremendous friends and connections through DMs in my business by reaching out to people that way, and not everybody responds. And, they also hit me up and I don't always respond either. So that's just human nature. Now, this next book was kind of funny because partway through it, I was like, this all seems familiar. I'd actually read this a few years ago, and I don't know how it didn't get put away on the shelf, but I started reading again, and I got so much more out of this. And I guess that's a great point, is that don't ever read a book thinking that you'll never pick it up again, never learn anything additional from it, because understand you're always growing. So if you're always growing, it's good to like pick that book up again that you got a lot of insight in from before, read it again, and you're going to get different lessons out of it. So this time, what I found funny is that the first time I read it, I didn't really highlight anything in it. And this time I was getting so much stuff out of it. But this is Sam Acho. Sam Acho played for the Arizona Cardinals and a few other pro football teams like the Chicago Bears. And he's a motivational speaker, humanitarian, and a former NFL linebacker. But the book is called Let the World See You. So let's pick something random out of it. I just loved his stories. And I think that, so he's quoting Jeremiah 29:11. And if you saw my phone screen, you'd see that that's actually the screensaver on my phone. But he goes, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. This passage is a great encouragement to anyone going through tough times. It's a reminder of who God is, and how he thinks about his people. But what's interesting here is who God was speaking to at the time, and then he goes into a story about himself. But yeah, that's kind of cool. Cool little tidbit that I got out of that book. Next one. This one I had to wait on. Otherwise, it probably would have been read the first time. But this one was on back order the first time I read it. But this is the book on mental toughness by Andy Frisella. Clearly states it's a book on mental toughness. So you know without a doubt that that's what it's about. And he goes in here and he talks about his story throughout the years. He goes into 75 hard, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 of it. Something I picked up out of this book, something I highlighted. The truth of the matter is, if you're honest with yourself, the moment you feel best about yourself or right after you just did something really hard. And that is so true. Like I look at yesterday and I, rose at 4 a.m. and I just crushed the day. And I could look back at the end of the day and see I had, I put 2 deals in. One fell apart the same day, but I put 2 deals in. I got all this forward progress on marketing for other properties. And at the end of the day, I could say that I literally did everything possible. And I had a hard day, but it was a very productive day. And I felt good about it in the end. Next book was Objections by Jeb Blount. Jeb Blount is an incredible writer. The book he's probably best known for is Fanatical Prospecting. His books are generally geared for people that are in sales. So if you are in sales, I highly recommend any book by Jeb Blount. Fanatical Prospecting, as well as Objections, would probably be the 2 that I'd recommend right off the bat. This is something that stuck to me for years. Yes has a number, but that number is not static. You can change it, but you cannot change what you cannot see, which is why you must know exactly what your yes number is at each step of the sales process. This awareness changes everything. It also helps you have a clear understanding of the overall picture. So if you know that your success rate is, say, 30%, you shouldn't get upset about you're closing 3 out of 10 because you know what it is. You shouldn't get mad about the other 7. Now, that said, you do want to look at those other 7 and go, are there corrections that I can make inside those 7 to bump that up to 35, 40, 50, 60, 70%? Is it possible at all? Or are they just intangibles that you're just not going to get those people? But you still want to know what the numbers are. You still want to know at every process of the sale where you can make little corrections that may bump that number from 30 to 32%. I have a friend of mine that's in roofing. He's a coach of mine that he is hardcore about. He knows that their closing percent is 26 or 28%, but he's always talking about how do I get that to 32%, or 35%? Because you look at he's in high ticket sales, roofs. So if he can get it to that, you're talking about millions of dollars in sales additional just off of getting the numbers changed a little bit. Same thing with me. It's instead of 30%, I at one time it was in the 20%, so now it's around 35% is my closing ratio. And I'm still always trying to figure out, well, how do I get that to 36 or 37%? Because if I can do something like that, man, you're talking tens of thousands of dollars more in business each year. All right, and the last one that I started on this, and then I've finished since then, was a book by Matthew Stephen Brown called Every Day a Miracle. If you are wondering about the miracles of God, oh my gosh, this book, highly, highly recommend it. Simple quote here on page 73. Life is not fair, but God is good. All right, so that's a wrap on that edition of 75 Hard. So what is next? Well, I'm doing a couple things. For the next 30 days, I actually started this on Monday. For the next 30 days, I'm doing the 4 a.m. club. Just seeing what the productivity will be like after 30 days by doing that. I'm just keeping an open mind on it instead of getting up at 5 or 6 a.m., getting up at 4, seeing how it plays out. So I'm basically treating myself like a guinea pig, playing with that. Now, that also means that last night I went to bed and it was still light out. So that was kind of weird. Also, the other thing that I'm doing is I'm going to be doing phase 1 of 75 Hard. So phase 1 is a 30-day program that is followed after 75 Hard. So this one adds 3 more elements to it. So you still have the ones I went over before. You have the 2 workouts, the gallon of water, the no cheat meals, no alcohol, read for 30 minutes, read for 10 pages a day. And let's see, what am I missing there? Brain fart. But anyway, we'll go on. The new one's going to add 3 more things. It's going to add cold shower. It's going to add 3 critical tasks to the 5 that you already have. And so you're going to have 8 total tasks. You're going to have the 5 original plus 3 more. What's funny about that is the first time I did phase 1, I misread it and I added 8 more tasks. I had days that I was up till midnight getting through all 8 tasks plus the 75 hard program on those 3 days. But I'll tell you what, I got so much done. It was crazy. Don't recommend it though, because I was like, this is insane. It's supposed to be 3 additional tasks that will progress you in whatever area you're trying to progress. So if it's, I believe the one time I did it, when I was launching this podcast. So I was getting a lot of stuff done with that. And then another critical task I had to do was building out the Shopify site. So it was doing that stuff. But anyway, in 30 days, it's like, oh my gosh, it blew up how much stuff I got done. And the last piece of it is that between the 2 workouts, the indoor workout and the outdoor workout, is that you have to have a 3-hour gap between the workouts. That is huge right there. You don't have to have that in the regular 75 hard program. You can, I would still say you should have a break. I mean, I never did less than an hour break between the indoor and the outdoor workout, but you should still have a break between it, but it's not required. I mean, I read the book. It's not required. However, in phase 1, it is. So in phase 1, you definitely have to do that. So that is going to be a wrap on what I'm going to be doing next. We'll follow up 30 days out. We'll see how I did on all that fun stuff. But that's when I'm starting after we have the anniversary dinner. All right. So if you enjoyed the show, please subscribe the YouTube channel. I'd love like get the subscriber pool up to 1,000 on that, because everything changes of how YouTube treats you once you hit 1,000 subscribers. So check me out on there. Leave reviews, comments, feedback, and I do answer my DMs. I think that surprises people, but I do actually respond to DMs and people reaching out. And then also, if you'd like to help support the show, go to dadsruleswag.com, buy a kick-ass shirt on there. Until next time, go out and be the kick-ass adult I know you all can be.